everyone, and welcome to the UNX News Radio podcast, your news source for all things unexplained. And now, here's your host for the UNX News podcast, Margie Kay.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to UNX News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and we have some really good things to share with you this evening. A big case out of Springfield, Missouri that occurred on October the 18th. A little after 5 o'clock, a gentleman was driving home from work, and he saw something very strange in the sky. And although he'd never seen anything like this before, he knew what to do. He got out his video camera, which was his cell phone, and he started filming and got something great. And this has gone viral on the internet now. But this happened in the state of Missouri near Springfield, and our witness is with us this evening. But first, I'm going to talk to the lead investigator on this case with MUFON. He is the state section director for Southeast Missouri, Mr. James Bear. Welcome to the program, James.
Thank you, Margie. Glad to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. This is one of the biggest cases to hit in Missouri lately, and it is unique in the fact that the witness actually got really good video of this case. Can you give us a synopsis of this?
Yes. When I received the case, I looked at the video that he had taken, and I thought that the object was a dodecahedron shape, but it proves that it was not that shape. I checked several sources to see what it could have been. I went to Flight Radar 24 to see if there were any aircraft in the area, and there was a medevac helicopter to the south, and to the north, about 35 to 40 miles, there was a cargo plane on the horizon. I also checked with my sources on the ham radio to see if there were any researchers' balloons launched that day that would be seen over Springfield, and there were none. And I also checked with my friends in the Audubon Society down in Springfield to make sure that there were no large flocks of birds. None of those things occurred.
Okay,
it was
well,
most interesting object that I'd have ever seen.
Oh, definitely. I agree. When I saw it, I thought that was highly unusual, and I can't say that I've ever seen it in many years of doing investigations, and I don't think any of our other investigators have either. But when you look at this, do you think that it resembles anything that you could possibly explain it away as, like a kite or a balloon or a drone?
No, I do not feel that it is any of those things. As I said before, I checked with sources that I know are reliable for those very things, and there was none there. And especially the birds who are migrating this time of the year. I wanted to make sure that there were not large migration of birds at that time, and there were none.
Well, it sounds like you've really done your research on this, and it takes that in order to find out exactly what something is. Because the first thing an investigator does for MUFON is try to debunk it and find out if it's something that would be a common object or a known craft. And you've done all that, and we're down to the questioning what it is.
Well, Margie, the one thing that really struck me, I wanted to get more information on it. So I went to Wayne, who is our photo analysis guru, and asked him if he would take a look at the video and tell me what it was. And I think Wayne will have some interesting things to say about it. Would you like to show some of the pictures of it, Mark?
Well, I will in just a minute. Let me show this right here. This is the location where the witness was. And I'm going to go ahead and bring him in right now. Justin Johnson from Springfield. Welcome to the program, Justin.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us this evening, and thank you for taking this video. When you were driving and saw this, what did you think that was initially?
It kind of evolved. I was driving home from work going up North Clinstone, and I kind of saw this thing just over the horizon a little bit, like just above the power lines and stuff. When you're on that part of Glenstone, you're kind of going uphill a little bit, so it could have been kind of high in the air, but it didn't really appear that way. I didn't really have to like strain to look up to find this thing or anything. It was like just above the roadway. When I first saw it, we have a lot of like helicopters here due to the hospitals. We have 2 of them, and they kind of frequent the area. So when I first saw it, I was like, wow, that helicopter is super shiny today. And then after I kind of watched it for a minute longer, I was like, well, maybe that's a bag of trash or something that's blown away and was caught by the wind. But as I got like right up under this thing, I saw it was like a solid metal cube, and it was rotating fairly quickly.
Yeah, have you ever seen anything like that before?
No. So I'm kind of a hobbyist, and I've kind of looked into this stuff on the internet and stuff, things like that. And, you see a lot of different things, but normally they're triangles or saucer shaped or a tic tac, but never a cube. This was new.
But you were on high alert, so to speak, and you had the wherewithal to stop. And where were you when you stopped and took the video?
So a lot of people make fun of it because I guess that's an old strip club that's no longer in business. But like right next to that, there's like an Arby's, and to the right of me was like a very large water tower for Springfield. So.
Okay. And you were actually in the median, weren't you? In the middle of the road.
Yeah. I stopped in the middle of the rush hour traffic and got in the turn lane to videotape this thing for a little bit.
So, okay, well, let's go ahead and show that video right now and let everybody see what it's all about. So here we go.
There's something going on here. Check this out. It's a cube. That thing's a cube with lights. It's a cube. It's jumping back and forth. I'm on Glenstone in Springfield, Missouri. That is a cube spinning on an axis, flickering. It's got lights around it in the middle of the day. In the middle of the day.
Okay. I can't imagine what was going through your mind at the time when you're saying it's a cube. Did you think UFO at that moment?
I knew it was something weird. Definitely unidentified. Like, I don't believe it was a balloon. It was kind of flying in straight lines. Like it had an agenda. I'd never seen anything like it. So, especially a drone, I wouldn't even be able to understand how a drone could do that and stay in the air.
Mm-hmm. Now we've got a screenshot here that Wayne made for us. And you said that you actually saw this from a different location to start with.
Yep.
And where would that be on here?
So between Chestnut and where that road that says 44 and the next block above it, straight up from that pin, kind of where that clover shape is, that's an old Somo factory right there. They make truck parts now. But it was kind of, there's an airport right there. The Springfield Cooper Tennis Complex is right there. When I first encountered this, I saw it at about sunshine, which is about right before that pin. And it was kind of coming at me diagonally towards downtown. So it was flying southwest when I first saw it. And then when I pulled up on it and parked and got the camera out, it kind of hovered for a little bit, and it started out that red line that you guys are showing there. So
And
it
how
did like
fast?
a V.
Yeah, you said a V pattern. So it wasn't just a straight line.
No.
Okay. And was there any sound?
So I didn't hear anything. I was in rush hour traffic, and I don't think I got closer than maybe 500 feet on this thing. So I wasn't able to hear anything. My family kind of lives just north of where this thing was spotted, and they said they heard some noise right about that time, but they couldn't confirm that that's what it was.
What kind of a noise did they describe hearing?
Like a loud humming noise. But there was some like road equipment that had went by a little bit before that, but they thought it sounded kind of odd for that noise. My family's in construction, so we kind of know the noises.
Mm-hmm. And you're an electrician by trade.
Yep.
And you're pretty good with distance. And I must say that you're probably wondering what the heck it was that you got here. Did you contact the media right after this happened?
As soon as I got home, I spread this thing as much as possible on social media. I don't really have a super large following by any means, actually rather small. So my reach wasn't very far, but I contacted all the local news agencies, like every UFO channel that you could think of on, Facebook and Twitter and Reddit, and I just spread it as much as possible to see if I could get this thing to kind of take, because I was truly amazed by what I saw.
And then you filed a report with MUFON as well. Mm-hmm. Now, in doing a search on the internet, it's pretty much gone viral now. It's on UFOhunters.com, UFOsightings.net, EarthChronicles.com, etc. And you can see why, because it's a really, really good video of an unknown object. I'd like to go ahead and bring Wayne Lawrence in. He's the chief investigator for Missouri, and he's our math whiz. And he figures out distance and size and all of that. And so we lean on him real heavily, and he also analyzes video. So, Wayne, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Margie.
What is your analysis of this?
Well, I certainly agree with what all's been said previously. It looks very much like a cube that is rotating rather rapidly. Although it's when you slow it down and analyze the video frame by frame, there's a lot of unusual things happening which you can't see when the video is running. Yeah, that's one of the later frames. You can here you can see what appears to be two of them. And I think I've got an explanation for the multiple sets, but not all of them, because this is just so unique. For example, this one here, you can see that the lead one at the far right is the basic cube, but that you can see it also two other times. Now, often when you see a digital image like this, what you're seeing is movement, but it's going so fast, it's going faster than the camera can capture it. And so instead of capturing it in 1/30th of a second, what you have is something traveling faster than 1/30th of a second. It could be 1/120th of a second, for example, which would allow you to, if you were going that fast and shooting that fast, you'd capture just one. But because it's going faster than the camera can do it, and it's not blurring it, but it is capturing them. Mm-hmm. Now, so that's one possibility. I've also seen another set of circumstances in other unknown aerial vehicles in which truly something just divides itself and becomes two or three or multiple. And I've seen that happen too. So it could be one or the other. It could be that it's just going so fast that the camera is only capturing. And here's another one. Now this is an unusual one because it's not going in the same line. The image prior to this you can see, well, it's another one. Yeah, here we go. In this one, you see the lead image, you see the second one, and you see a third one. So if you go back to the other one in which it jumps down, that one, this is the very next frame in which all of a sudden the lead one has changed position. It's not in the same row. So that's what leads me to believe that if there's a good chance that it actually divided and made other copies of itself.
This actually does look like the same object in at least 2, if not 3, of these objects, whatever they are. Does it look to you like there are lights on these objects, or is it a reflection from the sun?
I believe it's the sun. And the reason for that is, if you remember looking at the map that I created with the red line and the craft at that point is going northwest, basically. And the sunset, of course, would be in the west. So what we do is we're seeing one of those cube faces as it spins, being reflecting sunlight. And it's always on the sun side, which is to the left of it. With occasionally, you'll see one on the right, because I think that was the same image, but the same object is going too fast and capturing it, if you know what I mean. Know what I mean. So, but throughout most of the video, when you just look at it with your eyes, not frame by frame, you'll see that the reflection of the sun is always on the left side.
Were you able to determine the size of the object?
Yes, I've got 2 different sizes. One I'm more confident with one than the other, but they're very close to each other. What I'm doing is I'm predicating that the video, by the time the witness took the video, the object had already traveled towards the airport. And it's going not just in a haphazard area, precisely to the center area of the airport. Now that can't be just coincidence. Why would it be going there? To observe something at the airport. Either something that's coming in, departing, or who knows what. And so I'm basing the distance on the distance from the witness to the airport, which then allows you to calculate the altitude of the object, the distance from the witness, the line of sight distance, and the angle of observation, which is 21.5 degrees, at least in the frame that I took. It was moving slightly, but it gives us a beginning point. And then the distance from the witness in the median there in the road to the airport was 7.3 miles. The elevation was just a little over 15,000 feet at that point. And the line of sight distance from eye to the object, about 7.8 miles. And so with that, I'm more comfortable with the size of the cube being 87 feet per side, which is
And
rather large.
at that distance, do you think that would be easily visible?
Oh, totally. Well,
Okay.
not only if you have a zoom on a camera. And he obviously saw something that caught his eye in the first place. So it was small. But the fact that it does look small even in the video is a testament to the fact it was far away. It was almost 8 miles, a little over 7 miles away. And so,
Wow. So here's a couple more pictures.
Yeah.
Stills that you took off of the video.
Right.
I'll just go ahead and run through these real quick. And there it looks like there's 2.
3.
2 or 3. There's
Yeah.
definitely 3.
Yeah.
It's definitely 3. And again, in a different line, a different angle, which is extremely bizarre.
Mhm. So size-wise, it'd be roughly, if this is accurate, about the size of a regional airliner, such as Bombardier Aerospace CRJ-200, about 87 feet wide.
Okay. Well, let's bring Justin and James back in here. And let's just hash this out, guys. What do you think is going on? Do you think this is a bona fide UFO?
No, I'm not
Justin?
sure. I'm not sure what to think it is. I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like a kite. It was kind of flying against the wind from what I found that day. And it was flying, when I first saw it, it was flying southwest. And I looked up the weather records for that day, and they were blowing out of the south to the north. So for at least a mile or so, it was flying southbound. And then it headed out towards the airport. If it's a drone, I have no idea how that thing is staying in the air, and you can't really see any visible propulsion on it. So I'm no expert in this subject, but I don't know how that would work.
Well, one of the definitions we work with is if you can't see any kind of visible means of propulsion, and it stays basically in the air doing whatever it's doing, whether it's hovering or that is almost by pure definition a UFO.
Yeah, unidentified flying object or unidentified aerial phenomena is what we prefer to say now these days. It makes it sound more official.
One thing to consider too, virtually every frame you see it changing. So that tells me at least it was going 60 RPM per second.
Yes.
At the very least. So I don't know what kind of vehicles you know about that rotate 60 RPMs per second.
No. Justin, what is your camera speed on that? Was it 60 frames per second or?
I'm not savvy in that. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I know I have a Samsung S20 and I had it maxed out at 12 times zoom by the time I was able to get it focused in the camera screen. So,
Justin, what was the name of your camera? Was it a Samsung 20?
Yeah, the S20.
Okay.
Funny story about that. The day I bought it, I had the option between the S20 and the S21, and the guy told me, he's like, well, unless you plan on using your camera a lot, you may not want the better camera feature. And I was like, oh, I don't take a lot of pictures or videos, so I don't need the extra camera. Potentially cost us really good visual on this thing.
Yes, you shouldn't have done that. Go back to the store
when you write a letter.
Get the upgrade now.
Buy the better camera.
Yeah, definitely. And that is one thing that people can keep in mind. You can adjust your camera settings and video settings. And if you put it on the max, which is usually about 60 frames per second, that will help us determine. Now, Wayne, did you look at the metadata on that and see what the frames per second was?
I didn't make a note of that. It is greater than 30 frames per second because I have one frame, which is frame 638, another one's frame 741. So that tells you right there that it's gone beyond 30 frames per second. 730, for example, it would be the max if it had 30 frames per second. Actually, it's 29 because then it goes over to 0. But at any rate, so it's at least, I'd say 50 to 60 frames per second. I'd have to go back to look for sure. But I did also notice that you did have to click an extra time to get the frame to move. So that's generally a giveaway. If it is 60 frames per second and it's only doing that, you're getting a net 30 frames per second result, just because you have to click twice to get it to move.
I see. Okay. Good to know. James, you are familiar with balloons, weather balloons, high altitude balloons. Have you ever seen any behave in that manner?
Never. And I've never seen any balloon or anything like this rotate on all 6 axes. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I must say this is a completely a very, very bizarre case. And as you can see, it takes a lot to investigate something like this because you've got the video analysis, which takes forever, and going frame by frame. So you can imagine if you've got a 1 or 2 minute video at 30 to 60 frames per second, that it takes a long time to look at that. And of course, Wayne has done that. He's extracted some really good pictures off of that. And
well, also
go
we
ahead.
went into Heavens Above app to make sure there was no visible satellites at that time or anything would possibly lead me to believe that it was anything but what we were looking at in the sky. There were no satellites visible at that time.
And of course, if it had been a meteor or if it had been space junk, it would be falling. It would be moving, and it wouldn't be hovering in generally the same location. So we can certainly rule those things out as well. And also on this case, I will say this because we're going to broadcast this. If anybody else saw this event on October the 18th, just after 5:00 p.m., Springfield, Missouri, please contact me or contact MUFON directly. Go to MUFON.com. It's MUFON.com and file your report there. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a little tab that you can click on to file a report, and somebody will contact you. And it will probably be either James or me who will contact you about this event. Because if we can possibly get 1 or maybe 2 other people who took video of this from different locations, we could triangulate it and get it really close to where the object actually was. And that would be great. And we rarely see that in these cases, but because this has gone viral, perhaps somebody else will chime in and contact us. And we don't have to go public with the person's name who's reporting. The witness is always anonymous unless they don't want to be. In this case, Justin doesn't care. So he has gone public with this. He went public with it before he contacted MUFON. Justin, did you contact me first and then I told you to file with MUFON, or did you just file with MUFON?
I looked up like organizations to file it with like immediately just to try to get this thing, immediate attention. And I filed it with you guys like the day of, and James called me back like rather quickly, like the next day before lunch. And I also filed it with Norforce or whatever. They're like the national agency.
National UFO Reporting Center.
They emailed me back and said they would look into it, but I haven't heard anything back out of them.
Yeah, they really don't investigate. In fact, out of all the UFO organizations, MUFON is the only one that has investigators, boots on the ground, who do the investigative work. So that's
hopefully that changes soon. Hopefully.
Well, at any rate, it would be confusing if everybody did it too. Yeah. That would be another thing.
Well, I mean, more on a federal level. Maybe we get some more disclosure.
Well, yeah. Speaking of, disclosure is coming very, very slowly, and they're admitting some things. And obviously, pilots have seen some things, and the Pentagon has released the fact and said openly, publicly, that they don't know what these things are or where they're from. And Congress is interested. Finally, we've got some of the senators who are discussing it and the representatives who are really interested in it, because we're talking about, we don't know what this is, and can the military handle it if it's a problem? And speaking of military, a lot of times these objects are seen around military installations. So at these airports, Justin, has there been any military activity?
So I believe we have like a small National Guard post at our local airport. I was in ROTC when I was in high school, JROTC, and we did some trips there and got to do some flights and stuff. So I've been there myself. It's not normal for this area to have a lot of like military activity. But I don't know if it's just coincidence or they're looking into this themselves. But we've had quite a bit of flight activity from all kinds of different vehicles here over the last couple of weeks. and sonic booms happening frequently. As of today, there was 2 of them here in Springfield that shook everything, made the local news.
What kind of aircraft are they?
So I've personally witnessed Hueys flying over, or a Huey. We've seen C-130s circling Springfield there for a couple days in a row. And then somebody submitted to a local news agency pictures of B-2s flying over, which those come out of Whiteman, but we don't normally see them here very often.
That's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
And once again, when we have big sighting cases, there are often military aircraft that will come in after, and even several days after an event such as this. And it's makes you wonder what they're looking for, what they're doing. Of course, they're not going to tell us.
I was just thinking of that because it's quite possible there's something going on that the public is not aware of, but that ET is.
Margie, I wanted to jump in here real quick if I could. And
Sure
it was
thing,
just an observation. Yeah. This was the first time that I've gotten the chance to see the video, like up front, big screen, right? And it just reminded me of the 2015 sightings of Navy personnel and F-18 fighters back in 2015 off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. They described almost the exact same thing, but with one thing that was different. They said they were cubes that were rotating, but they had like a bubble around them, like a force field around them. Now, that might be because they could see them closer. They were closer to the objects, like could move on them. I don't know. But that thing looked a lot like what those pilots described. And I just wanted to jump in and toss that in there.
Yeah. Thank you, Bryce. That is right. And we do need to do a comparison with that video. I think that would be a great idea. We've got some people in the chat, and they're saying, Andrew Sutton. Thanks, Andrew. It's a fantastic video, no doubt. Donna Wilder, wow, great catch. Thanks, guys, for joining us in. Samantha Johnson, Bigfoot Cyber Arkansas. Wonder who that is. So, yeah, and if you have questions, guys, put it in the chat, and I will do the asking for you. And we'll see. Justin, has anybody in your family ever had any experiences like this?
I got a brother that was in the Army. He was stationed in Colorado, and he swears that maybe he saw something hovering over Fort Carson one time when he was driving in, but he didn't give me a whole lot of detail on that. And unfortunately, he didn't catch any pictures of it, but nobody else that I'm aware of has ever had an experience like this.
How about your friends and family? Have they ever said that they've seen anything, especially around the Springfield area?
Not like this. This has been pretty amazing to everybody in my family. I'm the only one that's ever caught anything like this or seen something like this. Maybe you see like a star kind of acting weird in the night sky, but you're not really sure if it's a satellite or, but to see this thing in broad daylight, to me, what seemed like only a few hundred feet over the city, it was really odd.
Yeah, and it was daylight. It was fair skies, no rain, no clouds, and really with the sun shining on it, it was quite spectacular. And let me
just a little side note, if I could add. I don't want to name drop anybody, but I did an interview with Vinny from Disclosure Team yesterday, and he is in touch with Lou Alessandro. And he says that he has seen my video and he agrees that this is a UAP. So I thought that was really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that. I think this is real exciting, and it's probably going to get some more coverage as soon as we do a press release here in the next couple of days coming out of MUFON. And I will also post an article on the MUFON website at MissouriMUFON.org, and probably on the UNX blog as well. You'll see that. Guys, do you have anything else to add to this? Do you have any thoughts, James or Wayne? What do you think?
It seems like I had investigated a case down near Stockton Lake, somewhat similar to this, maybe 8 or 9 months ago. but not exactly like this, but it was very close to it.
Okay. We need to look into that. There have been a lot of interesting cases in Missouri and some good photos, some good video. One thing that people do need to remember, we were talking about, setting the camera earlier, is to please just do video only, because Wayne can extract so much more information from a video than from still pictures. Stills really don't do us much good at all. So video, and turn the camera sideways. Okay. So Justin knows that now.
Yeah.
That from now on, if you see anything, just turn that camera sideways, and that'll get some more detail. You want to have a frame of reference. So if there's something like a power pole or a house or something, you want to try to keep that in the frame along with the object, if at all possible. You have any other tips for photography, Wayne?
When we're done here, I would encourage everybody to go look into your phone's camera settings and see what they're set at. And if you can increase the frames per second, do that. In your case, Justin, yours looks like they were set at 60 frames per second, but it is only shooting the equivalent of 30, because each frame is doubled. So frame 2.0, for example, is the same thing as frame 2.01. Frame 2.02 is the same thing as 2.03, etc. And so you're clicking on the same thing twice before it moves, which means that the net effect is 30 frames per second in what you see. So, but if your camera has the capacity to go to 60 frames per second, that's always better.
Okay. And James, do you have any tips?
Just keep observing the sky.
Yeah. Keep looking up, as they say.
Yeah.
Or on the ground, as they say. I did a case in Springfield a few years ago where this gentleman had lights coming in the window at night, real late at night, and it woke him and his girlfriend up, and there were multiple colors. He got up and he saw these balls of light going around his house like they were looking for something, and he was scared of it for a long time. And then at about 5:30 in the morning, when the sun just started coming up, he decided to get up and come out with his camera. He got his video camera, and he had an older style Sony with the tape. And he went down the hall very slowly, and then he goes through the kitchen, and then you see him open the back door, and he's looking through the back door to the outside. And here is, in the back, and I kid you not, a little ET standing behind the tree and peeking around the tree. And then you could see his hand come around the tree and hold on to it, and then his head is going in and out behind that tree. The strangest thing about this is that when I left, I had another investigator with me. She and I became extremely tired. We were going to drive back to Kansas City at that point, but we got very tired, and I just couldn't drive anymore. And I said, well, we've got to stop. So we stopped at a motel and spent the night in the motel. In the middle of the night, she wakes up and she thought she saw me walking by, but only I was gray. And the next day she asked me if I got up in the middle of the night, and I said, no, I didn't. Well, what I had done was take this tape from this gentleman out of his camera and take it home, because I have a device that will get the digital information off of a tape and put it onto a CD. So that's what I had planned to do. Well, when I got home, I immediately put that tape in the device and then played it back. And here is the entire video showing all of this event and exactly how we had seen it, except there's no ET in the video. It had disappeared in the night. So strange things like that happen, and I don't know what the technology is that somebody can take that and take something out of the video, and then get it back immediately to us, probably within a couple hours. And then we're at home. But yeah, somebody else was interested in that. I don't know who. I don't know if it was ET or if it was human. But when events like this happen, it seems to spark interest in somebody, interest from the government, interest from extraterrestrials, somebody who doesn't want this information out there. So videos like this have a tendency to disappear. But if people do like you do, Justin, and get that out there, it's on multiple platforms and people see it. So it's not gone. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, not a problem.
This is a really important case.
Something I've kind of noticed while going through this experience is I went super public with this thing, and I've had all kinds of people contacting me through email and on different social media networks. And they've sent me videos from Branson. One lady sent me a video from that night over by the airport, and it shows an object kind of rainbow colored, changing colors, flying across the sky. And you can barely make out what it is, but we don't know that this is not the same object. There was a video camera in Columbia, Missouri, like the night after, caught an object that looked very similar, changing colors in the night sky, flying around the city. So like this thing has been seen more than just here. It's gotten a lot of online interest, and I find it kind of weird that like it can't get any local media attention.
Well, it got media attention from elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, and you had an interview with someone from the UK, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I had an independent reporter from the UK touch base with me and asked to write a story about this and kind of share it. He got it published at one that I'm aware of so far, one agency called The Mirror.
Yeah, that's a big outfit. So, yeah, that's major. Probably the AP will pick it up out of there, is what I'm thinking. And
that would be awesome.
I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up on some of the major news networks around. Now, these other videos, can you send those to me or James so we can look at them? We won't publish them without the person's permission, but we'd really like to talk to those people too.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll get in touch with them and see if they'd like to be in touch with you guys, and I'll see about submitting their videos to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That really helps when you have multiple people that have seen the same thing. And it might not even necessarily be at the same time, but if it's from the same area, we are definitely interested in that.
Another thing I kind of learned from this, and it's unfortunate, and I guess just because I'm a little more outspoken and I've kind of watched this stuff online over many years now, like I kind of knew what to do, and it was just instinctual that I record this thing and get it as widespread attention as possible. But what I've learned through you guys and other people is, unfortunately, a lot of people have these experiences and they never even want to bring them up. And we're never going to get anywhere or force disclosure if nobody wants to come forward with these things. I feel like we need to saturate the viewing of this to really get people's attention.
Yeah, it's good when people like you do come out public with it, because it makes other people who have seen objects more likely to go ahead and talk about it and report it. And we really can't get the whole picture unless more people report, because there's a lot. I mean, they estimate, maybe 1% of people actually report something they see. So if you take that into account with, I know Missouri right now is working on about 18 cases, Wayne? What do you think?
We are at the 15, 18. Yeah.
So investigators are working on 18 cases at this moment as we speak. But if that was only 1% of what people were seeing in this state, wow, that's a lot of people. That is a lot of unidentified objects out there. And there are, I saw one comment by a person about this video that said it's Venus. Well, folks, it's not Venus.
Or no, 1,800. I'm sorry, 180 if it's just 10%. 1,800 people if it's all the people if it's only 1%.
Right. So 1,800 people have seen UFOs in the state of Missouri in the last 30 days. Is what we can estimate. That's a lot of UFOs. And well, Missouri is a UFO hotspot. I don't know if you know this, Justin, but we're consistently in the top 10 for all areas in the world.
Yeah, this last month we were like number 8, I think.
Yeah,
I guess that beats some of the other things we're setting records on right now.
yeah. Well, it's a lot, and we still haven't figured out exactly why that is. I don't know. James, do you have any ideas about why Missouri is such a hotspot for UFO sightings?
Well, the 37th parallel runs through Missouri. That's a good reason.
Yeah, and 39 and 38 too.
Yes.
Then there's Whiteman Air Force Base
Mm-hmm.
and various other silos.
And some other military outfits in the state. Got Camp Crowder and some other places. There's a lot
plants.
Like City Army Ammunition Plant.
Yes.
in Independence, and we have had so many sightings directly over Lake City. It's not even funny. And one thing that is going on right now that I probably should mention to everybody is what we're calling, they became the Blue Springs lights, and then they became the Kansas City lights, but they're really all over. And it's a single object that seems to spin, and it's usually 3 colors, something like green, orange, red, or blue, red, and white, something like that. And you can just kind of, if you watch very carefully, and especially if you can see it with the naked eye, but if you use high-powered binoculars, you can really see the detail. The only thing is you've got to have them on a tripod in order to do this, because you can't be moving around with it. But you'll see every like third of a second, this thing will flash, and it moves. Sometimes it will stay in the same position for hours. Some people think it might be a planet. Sometimes 2 of them appear at the same time, or 3 appear at the same time, and usually in a straight line as well. And then sometimes they'll do something crazy, like drop to the ground, or speed off across the sky to the other horizon and back in an instant, and do something so crazy that the person seeing it realizes, it's not one of ours. And they usually drop everything and go inside the house at that point, because it's so dramatic. But it might, just stay there and just do that for hours. Well, we're finding reports of this all over the United States, and I would imagine it's happening worldwide too, but definitely all over the state of Missouri. In fact, I've got a Facebook group just for that, called the Kansas City Lights, or the Bob Lights. We call them Bob. Beyond Belief is the acronym for it.
So, Margie, we were talking about the number of people that likely see something but never report it. I know for years, I would see things which, especially in the night sky, that I just attribute to, that must be an airplane, because I'd never seen a UFO up to that point. And so it wasn't until I actually had my first UFO sighting that all of a sudden I was looking at everything in the sky. And then I began to be more critical on what I was seeing. That's when I started seeing, oh my gosh, that is not acting like a plane after all. And so, it's partly an education that the individual has to go through to realize, I was just making an assumption here that these were just regular explainable aircraft. And so I think that could also be part of the reason why things go underreported, because people don't expect it to be anything else.
That's true. I have to agree with you on that. I mean, I have been guilty of watching and seeing what I thought were satellites until they do something crazy. And if I had just seen it and then quit paying attention, I wouldn't have seen the crazy part. And you see that we have some video footage of some just unbelievable things from here, especially rural areas. You don't have the light pollution from the city. So if you're looking at night, that's a great great place to skywatch because you can see so much more. And if something comes in, like it did a few years ago over Blue Springs in a triangular shape and blacks out the sky and the stars, you know something is in front of them, and it's close if it's really, really big. Gentlemen, we've got just a few more minutes here. If you've got any other thoughts on this, how about if I play this video one more time? Let's see what this looks like again. Nope, that's not it. Let me go to video here. That will help.
There's something going on here. Check this out. It's a cube. That thing's a cube with lights. It's a cube. Jumping back and forth. I'm on Glenstone in Springfield, Missouri. That is a cube spinning on an axis. Flickering. It's got lights around it. In the middle of the day. In the middle of the day.
Every time I see that, I'm just amazed. It is so bizarre. I've never seen anything like that.
You know, going back to what Ray said about it having been seen by military personnel, you know, this is something I seem to recall having seen something like this. I just can't place it. I just don't remember. It wasn't my sighting. It was somebody else's video. I've seen something like that before.
You mean in our reports for Missouri?
Yeah, either that or it was on a report on TV.
I overheard
rooms or something.
Not to interrupt, sorry, but I overheard there was several years ago there was a case of an object observing an airport that somebody caught on camera, and it kind of looked like this thing. So I haven't found that video to corroborate that, but possibly.
So they think the object was observing the airport.
Yeah, it was in a large city, if I remember. I think I remember vaguely hearing about this on like mainstream media. They were looking into it and stuff, maybe thinking it was a drone of somebody's or something.
So here again, we have a cube observing an airport.
No.
Oh boy, yeah, it would be nice to see if there are any other cases like that we can compare to this one, and if so, you know, what did the cubes want? Where do they come from, and what are they doing? And why are they interested in particular in airports? Wayne, do you believe that when he was looking at and observing this, that it was actually over the airport? That the object was over the airport?
I think there's a good chance of it. I mean, it's why on earth would it, of all 360 degrees in all directions, why is it precisely where the airport is? That to me is the question. Yeah. You know, if it was somewhere else, I would not necessarily think there's a tie-in to the airport. But just the fact that it's there that amount of time, at least for the video, and it's precisely there, it's just logical that it's not a coincidence. And so therefore, it must be pretty close to the airport. Given all those, yeah. Now, do I know for certain, 100%? No, I can't. It's just that when you look at the logic, it has to be related to the airport. And if you're doing that in broad daylight, no less, you don't care who sees you. And if you're right close to the airport, you don't care either.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Well, this has been a great case. Justin, thanks so much for reporting this to MUFON and allowing us to investigate it and coming on the show tonight. And Wayne and James, thanks so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
If I could add a couple things real quick.
You got 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Well, we'll add more things later. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This is Margie Kay with UNX News, and we are here every Friday evening at 6 p.m. Please click on the subscribe button for YouTube so that you will not miss an episode and you'll get notices. And check out our new network at www.unxnetwork.com.
You've been listening to the UNX News Podcast with Margie Kay. Any rebroadcast or duplication of this program or its content without express written permission from UNX Media or Margie Kay herself is strictly prohibited. The UNX News Podcast, in direct cooperation with the internet website unxmedia.com.